welcome to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a Middle-Aged Menopausal Mom. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, a big supporter of You Do You Boo, of women having a choice, and of believing that it's all gonna work out just fine. Buckle up, because today we are taking on a big topic. You know, that invisible checklist we all seem to live by, or have lived by at some point in our lives. Graduate by the time you're 22, get married by the time you're 28, have 2 kids and a mortgage at 35. Climb that career ladder and have it all together, quote unquote, by the time you're 40. Yes, that very timeline. You know the one I'm talking about. We have been spoon-fed this version of adulthood for decades. Raising my hand at that. And a lot of us, or you all of us yellers, are just now realizing that it's complete horseshit, quite frankly, right? Because guess what? Life is not linear. I say that all the time to clients. I've said it in multiple videos. Life is one giant roller coaster. Some of us got divorced before we even got married. Some of us had kids before our careers, or careers before we actually had confidence to know what our careers should be. Some of us changed everything in our 40s, also raising my hand, that was me, or started over in our 50s. Also me, right? For different pieces of my life, right? And if you have ever felt like you are, quote unquote, behind, this episode is your permission slip to breathe. Because there is no behind when you are living your life on your terms. So today we are going to say it loud and proud, screw the timeline. Let's unpack the toxic culture that sold it to us, the shame that it creates, and why things out of order, doing things out of order, might actually be the smartest move you ever make. So the myth of the perfect timeline. Let's talk about that first, because I think it's important, right? Let's start where it all comes from. This idea that lives should look a specific order. It starts very early. As kids, we are asked, what do you think you want to be when you grow up, Susie? And as teens, we're told to pick a college major that defines us for the rest of our lives. How many of us are actually using the degree that we went to school for? Probably not most of us. Or how many of us thought we are doing the things that we thought we were going to be doing when we were teenagers, right? When we went to college, it was like, I thought I was going to be a fashion designer. I am not a fashion designer, although I would not be, adverse to the idea of putting together a capsule collection with a brand. Hello, that is a thing. It's like a dream, but I'm not a fashion designer. I've got ideas, but I'm not a fashion designer. I'm a life coach and a speaker and all the other things, right? We are then bombarded with, going back to this timeline, I like to digress. We're then bombarded with weddings and baby showers and work and promotions, and somewhere in all of that mess, the message becomes clear. If you didn't hit certain milestones at the right time, somehow you have failed. And let me tell you, based on experience, my own and that of people that I know, that is a complete and total lie. The truth is, the timeline is just social programming. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It is rooted in old ideas about gender roles, success, and worth, especially, ladies, for women. We were raised with a certain equation. If you come from a certain generation, or if you were raised by a certain generation, I'm looking at you baby boomers, because that's what my parents were. I was always told, get married, have a baby, have a job, and that is what was going to be your fulfillment. Your stability was going to be your fulfillment. But what if your version of happiness doesn't look like that? Or you thought it should look like that back when you were a young, impressionable child, and now that you have become a mature, more experienced adult, you know that your happiness doesn't look like that. I mean, yeah, maybe you are happily married and maybe you are happily mothered or parent and you have a good career and all those things, and I'm not discounting that. But I'm pretty sure along the way, most of us have kind of veered in a different direction. Whether it is a career or making that choice to be a mother or a parent or making that choice to be in a committed relationship that includes, marriage certificates. I talk to so many women and even men too, who feel like they're racing against an imaginary clock. They're worried about when they'll meet someone or have kids or buy a house or hit a career milestone or not have enough money for retirement if you're my age, or whatever it is as we get older. And then my question though to you, if this is you, if you're hearing this conversation or watching this conversation and you're like, wow, I was raised the same way. I was told I had to get married and have babies and do all the things and, follow in my parents' footsteps or whatever it is. And that didn't feel right at some point to me, right? You're just going along with what you're kind of being told to do. But there is no scoreboard. Who's keeping score? There is no invisible referee waiting to blow the whistle on your progress to tell you you're not far along enough or you're too far along. Maybe you've been too successful. I don't know that that's a thing, but it is just you. You, yourself, and you. Me, myself, and I. You, yourself, and you. Who are racing against that timeline, that imaginary timeline. And I think once you recognize that there is no timeline, just like that there is no box, we are not in a box. We don't have to step out of our box. You kind of realize that, oh, I can make different choices. I could have done, or I can now do things differently. So what happens when you do things out of order? When life doesn't go according to the quote unquote plan that maybe your parents have set out for you, or you have set out for you, or society has set out for us. Maybe you get divorced. Maybe you leave a stable job to chase a dream. Maybe you had to move back home to take care of a parent. That is a stage that a lot of us are in these days. If you're in your midlife, a lot of us are talking about taking care of our parents and what that looks like. Right? What if you never have kids or you had them later in life? All perfectly fine choices. For a lot of us, that's when timeline anxiety kicks in, right? The one that says, oh, you should be further along by now. You should have this much more money in the bank. You should have a bigger house. You should have a boat. You should have like all the things. It becomes sometimes a materialistic thing for people because that's kind of how we were raised, a lot of us. It was like if you didn't have X, Y, and Z, you weren't considered successful. Doing things out of order doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're living. I'm going to say that again. Doing things out of order doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're living. It means you're experimenting. It means you're experiencing. It means you're doing you, boo, right? It means you're bucking the system and the idea that there is a pre-existing timeline for you that you have to follow. I got married when I was 28 years old. And when I was 28, I thought that was young. My mom was 22. She had me when she was 25. When I was 28, she thought I was old. Right? I wouldn't change that, but I still think getting married in your 20s is young. So young, right? I became a mom on my 33rd birthday. That's a different conversation, but that happened on my 33rd birthday. And I didn't always know that I wanted to be a parent. I wasn't sold on the getting married and having babies and white picket fence idea, even when I was a young girl. I love the idea. You like the idea of a wedding. It's so pretty to, watch that. And I'm like, that's a thing, right? But getting married was not a stipulation for me. It wasn't something that I had to do. I did it because I wanted to be with the person that I'm with forever. And so far we've made it 28 years. Married 24 and a half of them. And becoming a parent happened 4 years later. There was no rush for us to become parents. And then it happened 6 years after that. So we definitely were not on a traditional timeline. If you were getting married by 28, having a baby by 30, having the next baby at 32. You know what I mean? I didn't know who I was. And I have now spent the better part of my adult life not necessarily untangling, but really trying to dig into what it means for me to have made decisions, or if I don't think I would have made any decisions differently, but I definitely made decisions that since then, since I was in my 30s, in my 40s, I definitely pivoted and made decisions that were based on my needs rather than what somebody else was telling me to do, or this idea that I had to follow this specific timeline. What I learned from that is sometimes the messiest chapters are the ones that make you the most you. You find yourself, or you find pieces of yourself when you are in a mess. When life doesn't follow that straight line, it's not linear again, right? You learn flexibility and resilience and creativity. You learn how to pivot and rebuild and redefine what success for you looks like. Because success for each of us looks different. And I will also say this, the one thing that you can count on every single day is change. Somewhere in your day, something changed. A schedule, an appointment got flipped, a child got sick, you stubbed your toe and couldn't make it to work on time, whatever it was or is. Change happens every single day. It is the one thing that we can count on. And we've gotten very good at it, the small things. The big stuff is what kind of blows us off our feet, right? If there's a health scare or, an accident or something, God forbid, bigger happens that is a more emergent need. But change is the one thing that we can all count on every single day. So maybe you've decided to start a business at 45, or you have fallen in love again at 50 after, the first time around wasn't so great for you. Or you're finally going back to school after your kids are out of the house. It's not late. It's right on time because it's your timeline, not anybody else's. And I think it's very important for us to kind of look in the mirror and say, I am worth that. I am worth being able to pivot and change because I need to be able to sustain my happiness. So reclaiming your own pace is important. What does it look like to reclaim your timeline? First, you have to stop comparing yourself, your behind the scenes situation, to somebody else's highlight reel, right? Social media is a master illusionist. It is a detriment and a plus and a minus every single day, right? You're seeing everybody else's curated version of life. The engagements, the baby announcements, the promotions, the celebrations, the big, beautiful vacations. You're not seeing the sleepless nights, the arguments, the breakdowns, the doubt that shows up before that big win, that big promotion, or that thing that you've just celebrated. There's a lot of other shit that's behind that before it actually becomes true. Right? So stop comparing yourself to what other people are doing or what the expectation is for you that was set out for you when you were 0 years old by somebody who lived a completely different life, i.e. your parents, than the one that you want to live. Second, give yourself permission, my favorite thing to do, give yourself permission to pivot. There is no age limit on reinventing yourself or reinventing your relationship or reinventing your career or any of the things that you want to reinvent. The only deadline is the one that you're imposing on yourself, right? That's it. And then number 3 is redefine success. What does it mean for you, right? What does fulfillment look like for you? How does it feel? What does peace and ease, what does that feel like or look like? What do you want to be right now? Not 10 years from now. Because I can tell you this. Never in my life. I love living in Connecticut. I'm not going to discount that. I never in my life thought that I would live here full time, at least for another long time. And you want to talk about change? COVID happened and we were living in New York City full time and we had our house up here in Connecticut. And now we're here in Connecticut because that whole global, uh, thing that happened, pandemic that happened, mom brain, I couldn't remember the word pandemic, changed our lives in a way that kind of not forced us, but encouraged us to make a different decision about what we were doing with our family and how we were going to raise our family during a global pandemic. And so we relocated to our home in Connecticut. I do not regret that at all. But if you have a 10-year plan, I can almost guarantee you that it will not come to fruition the way that you think it's going to happen. Right? So if you have, and it's fine to plan. Don't get me wrong when I'm saying things like this, right? It's fine to plan. It's great to have a plan. It's great to have, a plan for savings. It's a plan for vacation, a plan for your kids' college, a plan for your career. It's great to have those things because that's how you build your goals and you create your dreams and you create your success. But who you want to be right now looks very different from who you want to be in 10 years. Trust me when I tell you that. When you start making choices based on joy instead of judgment, everything shifts, right? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel happy? I'm going to tell you this also. Happiness is nobody else's job but yours. It is nobody else's job to make you feel happy or make you be happy. You choose the people you have in your life because they add to your joy and your fulfillment and your happiness. But it is nobody else's job to make you happy. It is no job's job to make you happy. It's your job to make you happy. And that should include doing things you like to do or want to do, having the job that you want to have, building the life with the person you want to build it with if that's what you're choosing to do, create a family with a person or by yourself if that's your you do you, boo, right? Start making choices based on what you want. Stop living to impress people who in real life aren't paying attention, right? Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. That's another big thing that I like to say, right? Show up for you. That's all that matters. And the people who are around you, who are going to support you in that, are your people. And you'll learn that very, very quickly. I started my coaching business 10 years ago, 2015, September of 2015. And the people that I thought were going to be the most supportive were the least supportive. And that kind of rocked my world. And as a life coach, I kind of had to do that work on myself to be like, you know what? It's nobody else's job to support me in what I'm doing or be supportive of me in what I'm doing. Although I am a wildly supportive person of people that I know and love who are doing great things. I'm always the first typically to congratulate them, promote them, do all the things. And when that doesn't happen for you, you kind of think about it and you're like, wow, that hurts, number one. But also, it's not my job, right? I can't expect other people to support me, even though I support them. And I can't I'm not going to throw a tantrum about it. I'm not going to be like, why didn't you follow me? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you tell your friends about, like, that's not, and maybe I've done it the wrong way, but I've done okay for myself. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying you have to show up for you and you have to be okay with what the decisions that you are making to be able to find your own success. And success is defined differently for everybody. For some people, success is getting out of bed every morning and making it to the coffee maker and making coffee. That's their success because they have so much stuff. For other people, it is having many homes and many things and many toys and many whatevers, right? Success looks different for all of us. And when you realize that the so-called wrong order or the order that you have created in your brain with the help of outside influence, that can help you put you on the path that leads you to where you're meant to be. You know what I mean? Like you can go through all the motions and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I feel like I did that wrong and I feel like I should be doing this over here and I really want to make that happen. And so you start taking the steps to making that happen because you have now heard me say, find your joy, and it's your responsibility to find your happiness, and it's your responsibility to create that change in the easiest way possible, right? Wreaking havoc and causing chaos isn't necessarily the right way to do it. Call me if you need help on that, right? But really think about how you can make things happen for you. You can shift and you can create whatever it is that you're trying to create for yourself and maybe for your family and for your relationships and for your job situation or whatever it is. But that order, the order that you had envisioned, kind of shifts around and the puzzle piece fits differently, and that's okay. And that different path can be the path to where you are meant to be. It's where your actual true joy lies at the end of that chaos or that questioning. I think it's important for us to know those things, right? And we don't always know the answer all the time. And sometimes the answer shifts, right? It's like, I want to be doing this right now, but maybe in 2 years I'm not doing that, right? I jumped into coaching 10 years ago and coached and did speaking and did a TEDx talk and wrote the books and did all the things. And then life kind of happened and I continued my education and dove into different avenues of coaching. So I have different certifications for different topics. And then I got very involved in my community and wanted to be more invested and interested in working with advocacy. And so now I'm doing that. I've shifted that, but I'm still doing this, right? That's the beauty of being able to make those choices for yourself with the support of the people around you. Like I have the support of my family and my friends who are super supportive of me, who, definitely exist and check in on me and are like, how's it going and what are you doing and all that stuff. And my husband, who's super supportive of me and never has said no to me ever in our lives, which, maybe he should say no every once in a while when I go buy things, but that's okay. Like we've always figured it out, and we have chosen to work on that, our marriage, right? There's a reason why we've been together for 24 and a half years married and together for 28. There's a reason. You get up every day and you make the choice. You do it in your marriage, you do it in your relationships, you do it in your parenting, you do it in your job, you do it with your friendships. You make the choice. And hopefully the choices you make are because it's part of your joy. It's part of your joy. The job that you do and the people that you're around, you have the opportunity, you always have the choice to make a change and choose joy. What is going to bring me joy? So let's end on this, because I've been talking about this for 25 minutes almost. So let me leave you with a couple of thoughts, right? What if the pressure to have it all together isn't a sign that you're behind? It is a reminder that you are human, right? We're human. Life gets in the way. Things happen. Change shows up when we least expect it, in sometimes a very monumental way. You are not supposed to have all the answers. You are supposed to live and learn and fall down and pick yourself up and grow. That's how we create resilience, right? And we teach it to our kids and other people around us who are watching. There aren't people watching, and there are people watching. You know what I mean? Like, we think that there's an audience, but there is it to some extent, but it's not as big as you think it is, right? Maybe your path looks nothing like your best friend's path. That's cool, right? Maybe you're building something slowly while everybody else seems to be way ahead of you, and that's cool too. Again, this is not a race, right? The people seem to quote unquote have it all, they rarely do. There is always stuff going on in the background, right? You don't know what other people's lives look like behind closed doors. Learning to make peace with where you are is very important. So the next time you feel the pang of comparison or panic about, where you want to be or where you think you should be or what you should be doing, say this out loud. Screw the timeline. Get rid of the box and screw the timeline. Say it in the mirror. Say it when you scroll social media and you're like, oh, Jack over here just bought this, that, and the other thing. I wonder, he must be super successful. Well, you have no idea. You have no idea, right? Say it when somebody asks you, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? What's up next? There is no timeline. Because your next doesn't have to fit anybody else's schedule. You are allowed to build a life that makes sense only to you. That, my friend, is real freedom. And yeah, you might be middle-aged like me, and you might have a family, and you might have children, you might have a spouse, and you might have a job, and you might have all those things. And I'm not saying go out there and light a match and light it up and burn it all down. But what I am saying is, if you're finding yourself to feel unfulfilled or unappreciated or like you're wanting to start something new and fresh, don't be afraid to explore that. Have a conversation with a friend. Call me. Have a conversation with your spouse. Talk to your adult children. Get other people's perspective on that. You might hear things that you don't necessarily want to hear because not everybody's going to be rah-rah cheerleader every single time something comes up because they're going to be realistic, But I think having realistic conversations about your future that's going to bring you joy is a really important thing for you to do. So you have permission, give yourself permission to say in the mirror, screw the timeline, I want to, you fill in the blank. All right, yellers, that's all for today's episode. If this one hit home, please send it to your best friend, your sister, your coworker, your husband, your wife, or anyone who has ever felt like maybe they need a kick in the ass or a little bit of a reboot or something. Because we are not behind. We are exactly where we are meant to be with a lot left in our future. So take a minute or a few minutes or extra minutes to figure that out. Don't forget to follow, like, share, leave a review, give me a comment, send me a DM. What is it you want to hear? Check out the website, all the things. Head over to @WhyAmIYellingPod on all of the social medias. New episodes every Friday. Let's keep rewriting these rules together. Until next time, remember, you don't need to have it all together. You just need to have yourself. I love you, and we'll see you back here soon.